They took me out to it's called a destruction track. They had this area like a park where they would beat cars to death to test their tolerances, you know. I mean, they had potholes like this and jagged things, and they drove me around. Just one time I almost broke my back. I mean, they would pound that car until the springs and the shocks were jelly. Who knew that they did things like that? So that was really interesting to find out.
The Last Independent Automaker Podcast was sponsored in part by Visit Detroit, the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation, Motor City's National Heritage Area, and by the over 375 individuals and organizations who donated to this project. Thank you. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Last Independent Automaker Podcast. I'm your producer and host, Joe Ligo, and I'm very excited because in today's episode, we're going to take a look at our extended interview with TV and movie actor and AMC spokesman, Sam Groom. Now, you might recognize him as the face of the Tough Americans campaign that AMC did from about 1981 to 1983. Or if you're a real AMC fanatic, you also recognize him as the host of the AMC sales training videos that they sent out to dealerships on Laserdisc. Now, as far as commercials, Sam was only the host of the AMC product line commercials. He didn't do anything for Jeep or Renault, and even Eagle kind of had a separate ad campaign from Spirit and Concord. But for the sales training videos, he actually did all the brands. So there's lots of cool stuff you can dive in there, and we feature a lot of that footage throughout episodes 5 and 6 of our documentary. Now, if you're a fan of vintage TV shows, you might also recognize Sam as Dr. Simon Locke from the TV show Police Surgeon back in the 1970s. That was a big deal for him. He also was a guest star on lots of other TV shows you might recognize, like The Love Boat, Murder, She Wrote, Law and Order, and my dad's personal favorite, Gunsmoke. When I first had the idea to do The Last Independent Automaker, which was like 10 years ago now, I knew of Sam because I had seen the commercials. The Tough Americans ads are kind of famous online, but I had no idea if he was still around, if he was still acting, or any way to get in touch with him. But I thought it would be really fun to interview him and include part of his story in the documentary. And thankfully, through a friend of mine, Ben, through the American Motors Owners Club, Ben was actually able to figure out how to reach out to Sam and get in touch with him. And from a little bit of convincing on Ben's part and my part, we actually convinced Sam to do an interview with us. And, you know, I guess it's kind of a weird request if two random strangers call you up and say, hey, you did a TV commercial 30 years ago. Would you like to be interviewed? But to his credit, Sam gave us a chance, and I got to go interview him in the fall of 2023 with my co-producer Jim and my friend Ben. Unfortunately, we had to cram so much information into the show that we only get to use a small piece of the interview we did with Sam. And so I thought this would be a nice chance for us to take a look at the longer interview, hear some more of his fascinating stories, both about working in the car business, also working in Hollywood, different shows he was on, interesting people he met along the way. And one of my favorite things is when he talked about coincidental car stories in his life that sort of all seemingly tied back to American Motors long before he ever ended up making the TV commercials. Now, one small note, I did edit this interview slightly. Our conversation jumped all over the place, so I rearranged the questions, and anytime there was an awkward pause or somebody had to cough or get a drink of water or we had to adjust the camera, the microphone, whatever, I cut all that stuff out. So you will see transitions, but we didn't edit anything in a manipulative way or a deceptive way. There's no fake AI video or any of that kind of stuff added to this. I just tightened up the interview so it makes more sense and it's easier to listen to. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Sam Groom.
So the first thing I'd like to kind of just get a little bit of background on what was your, experience acting prior to the 80s when you started doing the commercials for American Motors?
Okay, I'm gonna give you a little history here. I was married my senior year in college and arrived in New York in the fall of 1962 with a wife expecting a baby within a month. And I worked at a Siemens hotel at night so that I had my days free to go out to auditions and things. And they paid very little money. So I was desperate to get some work of some kind that made, I would have given anything to get a commercial. I couldn't get one to save my soul. I tried and tried. Now, luckily, I got work as an actor fairly quickly, and so I was able to support everybody, but I could never get a commercial. 10 years pass, and I'm doing, I just done 4 years on a soap opera, Another World, playing a doctor, very successful storyline. And I left that to do my own series, Dr. Simon Locke and Police Surgeon. And a big pharmaceutical company that shall remain nameless approached me with a lot of money to be a spokesman for one of their products. I didn't need the money because I was doing pretty well by that time. And it seemed unethical to me that I was playing a doctor would then promote some pharmaceutical company's products. So I turned them down, and I think it turns out that there was a law against doing that they passed not too long after that. And then another 10 years goes by, doing all sorts of work in the business, and American Motors and Gray Advertising get together and create the Tough American campaign. They first went to Burt Lancaster. Burt was a wonderful, wonderful actor and a tough guy too. And Burt agreed to do the commercials, the Tough American campaign. There was only one caveat. He wanted to write the copy. Now, if you know anything about the advertising business and car guys, they'll shoot you if you change a word of their copy. The idea of somebody writing the copy is certainly a no starter. And then they went to, I believe, Robert Duvall, and that didn't work out for some reason. And then they came to me.
And I suppose, just because I'm not familiar with this side of the business, was it something where Gray contacted your agent and then your agent contacted you, or how was there an audition process?
Yeah, well, I went in to meet them and to talk to them. My agent contacted Gray rather than the other way around. They heard that they were looking for somebody, and so he contacted them. And then I went in to meet them. And it was interesting. I wore a blue kind of work shirt. And they got fixated on that blue work shirt. You'll see in that commercial, I'm wearing a blue shirt. And they insisted I wear that blue shirt again. I mean, something about that they liked a lot. I don't know. But I wore that when I went in to talk to them originally. That they asked me to wear that when we shot the commercial. So now they came to me for just one commercial, not for the campaign. And they paid me very well to do that. And so we shot it, and that's the one you probably have seen the most of, where I'm walking along the assembly line talking to a girl. And from what I understand, they tested that, and it tested so highly that they rushed back and negotiated a 2-year deal with us to do all their commercials for 2 years. So that was my involvement in the Tough American campaign. They were good people to work for, too, I must say. The American Motors guys were very, very nice.
I remember you had told me the Burt Lancaster part, but I didn't know that the story of testing it and that the audience response and that.
Well, I'll give you another part of that is during the course of the 2 years, I was back in New York in the Gray Advertising, a big executive's office, and he had a report from J.D. Powers on the commercial. And I said, "How's it doing?" He said, "Well, I can't really show you this because you're negotiating with the company, but I'm going to go to the bathroom and I'm going to leave this on the desk. Do you happen to take a glance at it?" So he went to the bathroom and I looked at it. Believability, 98%. I'm thinking, why the hell is it not 100%? So the guy comes back and I mentioned it to him. He said, "Sam, 2% of the population is crazy. 98% is a phenomenal number for a commercial." So,
how much direction was there? Did they give you on the look you were supposed to have? Because they're trying to sell this tough.
they really nothing. They did, I don't remember them. It was just that shirt was they were fixated on that shirt. But other than that, I can't remember there was much of any discussion about what I was wearing or not wearing.
When you're performing for a commercial and you're talking straight to camera and you're explaining something to the audience, how is that different from acting in a comedy or a drama or a TV show or a movie?
Well, in a commercial, I mean, I didn't do that many. I only did the American Rose, and I did one campaign afterward for Quaker State Oil. They weren't nearly as nice as the American Motors guys were. It is, you're talking to the audience. You're talking to, you imagine it's one person you're talking to and explaining the benefits of the product, whatever it may be. When you're working as an actor with somebody else, there is something, everybody wants to do something. You have some objective that you're trying to get, whatever it may be. And when you're working with somebody, you literally try to get that from them, whatever response you want from them, whatever. And that's what your focus is.
Right, because you're playing off another person versus
Yeah.
playing off just the camera.
Yeah, well, it's not the camera is only there to represent the people I'm talking to. I'm not talking to the camera. I'm talking to the people that are behind the camera that that are going to see this. So you're really talking to somebody also.
What was it like making the commercials? We'll start with the first one, the one in the factory, when you're on the assembly line. What was it like making that?
It was actually a lot of fun. I'd never seen an assembly line before. Along with that, part of the contract that I signed with them, eventually, I agreed to make one in-house film for the company that they would only show to the people that work there. And we shot it all along the assembly line while I was walking through talking to different people. The whole process was fascinating to me. They take a shell and start this moving down here, and each person has one thing to do that they keep doing. Every car that comes by, they do it, or maybe two people are needed for it. And it goes all the way down on this line, back and forth. My God, you come to the end and it's a complete car. You go, this is phenomenal how they do. We can thank Henry Ford for that. He's the one that started it, but that was very, very interesting to me. And so shooting the first commercial, we shot a little bit on the assembly line. I found that fascinating, It was just being part of the auto industry was kind of invigorating, I liked it. And I liked the people a lot. They were very nice.
Yeah, so where are the workers in that? Those are the real folks. Those aren't extras or whatever that you see in the background putting the cars together.
I'm not sure about the woman. The woman says something.
Talk can be beautiful.
She may have been an actress that was hired. The other people, the real people working there, They didn't stop the assembly line. The assembly line was just running when we shot. Yeah, it was fun.
So people couldn't get too starstruck. They had to, because they
Not at all. They were great too. Very, very nice.
You did other commercials with American Motors after that. We wanted to have you watch some of them to, see if you had anything to say about some of the particular spots you were in. I think that's kind of a fun thing to go back and watch those.
I remember we shot one on Pismo Beach, and I went up the coast of California. That was fun to be out in the sand dunes, that.
American cars guzzle gas. American cars are all style and no substance. American cars don't last. To all that, American
look pretty good.
Is nuts. This American Motors Concorde and this Spirit are built to be more than just good looking. They're tough. Tougher than ever before. The only American cars with galvanized steel and 100% of the exterior body panels. That's right, 100%. And Concorde and Spirit are more fuel efficient than ever before. This Concorde actually gives you better mileage than Chevy Citation.
Please notice the blue shirt.
Give you Z-Bard factory rust protection and a full 5-year no rust through warranty.
Talk can be beautiful.
Plus the exclusive American Motors Buyer Protection Plan, still with the best economy car warranty coverage in the industry. Concorde and Spirit, for good-looking high-mileage cars, don't sell the tough American short. Concorde and Spirit, built to last from American Motors.
Amazing. Years ago, I was living in New York, and my middle son was living with me before he went off to law school. And we went to an exhibit at the Museum of Natural History. And it was based on, this exhibit was sponsored by the State of Israel. It was on the concept of time. A fascinating exhibit that they had. We were standing at the entrance, a group of people here, and my son and I, and there was a big screen here, and I turned on, my God, that's me. They were showing a clip from a movie for television I did called The Time Travelers, where I played a doctor who went back in time to the Chicago fire. Actually, a really nice movie. My kids loved that movie. Anyway, my son says to the group of people there, he says, you want to know the real concept, you want to see the real concept of time? That's the same guy. 20 years later. Well, I can say that right now, look at this. This is really the concept of time. My God, I look young.
So watching that, does that bring back memories of the shoot and, being around the factory? And I mean,
it does. They were nice. They were extremely welcoming. So it was a pleasant experience there. I didn't know what to expect with auto guys, but they really could not have been nicer. They were really terrific. One of the things they did for me that was most interesting, they took me out to it's called a destruction track. They had this area, like a park, where they would beat cars to death to test their tolerances, And they had one kind of an oval track where they'd take cars out, and I mean, they had potholes like this and jagged things, and they drove me around just one time. I almost broke my back. I mean, they would pound that car until the springs and the shocks were jelly, to see what the tolerance would be for a car. Just one trip around there was sufficient for me, but who knew that they did things like that? So that was really interesting to find out. And they were very gracious about showing me things like that. I didn't spend that much time with them, really. Your major connection is with the advertising agency. But I have very, very favorable memories of that. As I said, I don't of particularly of the Quaker State. I only met them one time at a dinner, and one guy was extraordinarily rude. And I went, I can't wait till this deal is over.
a big message of the commercials is, and this was not unique to AMC. I think all the car companies in the 80s, the quality was the big thing. They wanted to talk about quality and reliability and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That was a theme, I think, that your commercials drove home really well, and a lot of the other competitors were trying to send that same message.
Right. Well, at the same time, Lee Iacocca, we thought it was a joke. I mean, he was so horrible, but effective in his horribleness. He had taken on as a spokesman for Chrysler and saved the company, really. Did a wonderful job, but yeah, they all were pushing the same thing. The only thing I thought, I didn't think about this for years, really, was American Motors really trying to build their business up to stay American Motors, or were they building their business up because they were planning to sell it? Which they did at the end of the 2 years. They sold it or merged with Renault. So I didn't think about this at the time, but over the years I thought about it. I mean, I was trying to save the company, and I'm not sure that, they didn't just want to build the bottom line up so that they got a better deal with whoever they merged with. I'm not sure. I'd have to talk to somebody at the company about that. But
Yeah, it's a complicated between what the economy was doing and gas prices and interest rates and stuff hurt them so much that I don't think they went into it intending to sell, but I think that they got battered pretty hard by just the financing cars at 18% and
I can remember they used to do a lot of rebates. A lot of people were doing it, but they would have to fly me back to New York, and we'd record a little something that they'd put into one of the commercials or something. That was pretty common at the time. I've never seen it since. I don't know.
So you're saying they would film, they'd finish a commercial, and then they'd say, "Oh, we want to change it from 10% to 5%."
Exactly, and I'd have to come back and change. They'd record. Of course, they flew me first class. And they allowed me to stay at any hotel. I stayed in the Plaza. I stayed in any hotel I wanted. I could they would put me up in. This is great advertising, of course. So it was a pleasant experience. They put a limo at my disposal. I had a rather spoiled youngest son. He stayed with me in a hotel room when he was there, and the limo picked us up. It was taking us somewhere, and I said, "Stop! Let's take a walk." And he started complaining that we didn't have a stretch limo. I wanted to kill him. What?
It's so fascinating to hear the inside story of, all the work that had to get done for it to get on TV.
Yeah. Another funny, amazing thing happened a couple of weeks ago to me. I was reading the Wall Street Journal, and there was a small article and a wonderful picture of a 1923 Hudson that was beautifully restored. And this guy had inherited it from his grandfather, who'd beaten the thing to death. And he had it rebuilt. It took 3 years to do that. Exquisite looking car, convertible, and just an absolute beauty. And in the course of the article, it said Hudson, the Hudson Automobile Company, merged with other companies to make American motors. We owned a Hudson car. Right after the Second World War, you couldn't get cars during the war. They had the assembly lines were all for military vehicles. So I don't know, 1946, 47, we got a Hudson, and we had that, and then I think we traded that in. We got another Hudson. I kind of credit, talk about tough cars. They were like tanks. And on a Saturday morning, my brother and I were racing the gym. We wanted to practice basketball. The gym was going to close at 12, let's say. We were racing down a sunny road, and there was a traffic light ahead. It was green, and I wanted to make the light. It turned red. I jammed on the brake. I was a fairly inexperienced young driver. Jammed on the brakes. We turned sideways. We went across the road down into a huge tree in the side of the car. We didn't get a scratch. I mean, that car was like a tank. That old Hudson was a great, great car. And to hear it became American Motors, it really was a tough American car.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah. I didn't realize Hudson had joined with the other cars.
Yeah, it was Hudson and Nash, if you remember Nash.
I do remember Nash, yeah.
That's funny. No, that's a great story. I've heard those old Hudsons, like you said, they were built. Tough.
I mean, it was tough.
Speaking of the toughness factor, sometimes the commercials had the cars were taking some kind of abuse, and that was, there's one where they drive a car into the ocean. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't remember that. Well, it may have been Pismo Beach. I don't remember that.
Let me pull up the spot here for you, because this one's a favorite.
I'm going to see this. I don't remember that. The plunge.
Introducing the 1982 American Motors Spirit.
What the hell?
Under 30 feet of salt water, but we're showing it to make a point. Only the tough Americans from American Motors give you Z-Bart factory rust protection and a full 5-year no rust through warranty. So when you hear durability claims for other high mileage cars this year, just remember who backs their claim with the only 5-year warranty. More tough action from American Motors.
That's a good commercial. But I don't remember that at all. I have no memory of that.
So, but
that's a good commercial. I'd buy that car.
They got more and more intense,
Did they ever? My God. I literally do not remember that at all.
I suppose it's one of those things, the first commercial tested well, and then they want to suddenly get more money.
Exactly. That's it. Exactly. Yeah.
On the subject of, the response to the commercials, did you hear anything from Gray or from AMC about how they were doing, or whether they were moving the needle on sales or anything? I mean, as an actor, do you ever get any of that?
Well, they don't want you to. I mean, I had a real killer agent. Any good news would have been fodder for renegotiation with him. They didn't talk about that too much at all. They signed a very lucrative deal for us, so quite obviously they were pleased with what was going on.
So what did you think of the cars themselves? At one point you had, I think it was an AMC Eagle, you told me.
Yeah, they gave me an Eagle wagon, another car that served me well in a tough situation. One of my sons needed a car to get to school here back east. So I was driving it across country in winter, I took the northern route, and I was on a snowy highway in Wyoming, near Cody, Wyoming, and came whizzing around a corner with the Eagle wagon, and there was a truck that had jackknifed all the way across the road, a fuel truck. The road was completely blocked. And I came whizzing around in this Eagle wagon. Oh my God. Very quickly I drove off the side of the road, and this four-wheel drive plowed through whatever was off the road. And I got around that thing, and not a scratch on me and not a scratch on the car either. I could thank the four-wheel drive Eagle wagon for that one. So the car's been, that or the predecessors, has been pretty good to me.
You hadn't told me that before. That's a great story. So you actually did you could say it was product testing.
I did, yes. Very dangerous product testing, but it worked very well. That was a nice car. It was a pretty car too. I mean, it had the panels on the side. It wasn't real wood paneling, but it looked it. And I loved the car. It was great.
So that was actually what part of the deal is, that they gave you a car for doing the commercials.
One of the commercial campaigns, they kept changing something. So what should have taken about 4 hours to shoot took about 8 hours because it constantly changing. It wanted to do it this way, this way. They felt bad about that, and they gave me the wagon as the compensation for that. And I was happy. I liked the car.
Did you own any other AMC cars other than the Eagle?
No, that was it. That was the only one that I did.
I guess Jeep, which was part of American Motors, they probably had a separate ad firm or whatever.
They did, yeah. They didn't talk about the Jeep at all in the work I was doing. I did something to talk about the effectiveness of the ad. I one time went to Lorimar Pictures to meet with them about a project. And I'm walking through the office, and there are a lot of women sitting at the desk. And I walked by one woman. She said, "I bought a car because of you. Don't tell my husband." Okay. So it was effective. I did get a little feedback then.
I assume people recognize you on the street from your other work, but did people ever recognize you from the commercials?
Well, they, of course, because they were very effective, and they used them a lot. So it was just part of the general recognition factor. But people seemed to like them. I mean, it was very, very positive response from them. So
this one might have been the one that was on the beach because there's a lot of sand in this
Rust
one.
Valley.
So.
This is probably Pismo Beach.
It seems like only yesterday they sparkled under showroom lights. Now they're rusted hulks. The tough Americans at American Motors think you should have something better, a car with a future. So Concord's the only American car built with something more durable than steel. Galvanized steel in 100% of the exterior body panels. That's right, 100%. So good as this high-mileage Concorde looks today, its future looks even brighter. For 1982, more tough action from American Motors.
Yeah, that was Pismo Beach. That was kind of fun to shoot that one.
How early in advance would you get the scripts or the copy for stuff, or when would you get the materials for the spots?
I can't tell you, not too early, but I had a very, very good memory. When you do a soap opera, and I did one for 4 years, not willingly, but I did it. Unfortunately, it was very, very popular. You have to learn a half-hour show every day. I mean, and they didn't stop. They'd shoot that, and you'd have to die before they'd stop and reshoot something. So you really learn to memorize things very, very quickly. So I don't remember there being any difficulty at all with that.
Is it hard, commercials that I feel like the people who produce them, they always want to cram more into the 30 seconds?
They do.
When there are moments where you have to speak really fast and rattle off all the warranties and the numbers.
Well, the one as I said, the one I remember most is where they kept changing. They change a line, not even the whole line, just words at the end of something, or they would add something, a rebate or something. I mean, it drove me nuts. And something that should have taken 4 hours took 8 hours. And I mean, I could barely remember my name by that time, and they just kept redoing it and redoing it. But I got a car from that, so it was well worth it.
one more I want to show you. You can just hand that off to me. I'll
Okay.
switch it. This is you mentioned rebates. I have one that has
Oh, I'd like to see that. I was just thinking about that.
this one. They're driving the cars past you as you talk. It's kind of a little bit of an intense kind of parking lot.
You know, I was talking to you about these, and I vividly remember the first one, and I vaguely remember the Pismo Beach one, but a lot of these I don't remember at all. And I was trying to think about them. I said, what else did we shoot? I'm seeing right now what we shot.
The 1982 cars are here, and so are the 1982 prices. But now, American Motors makes buying an 82 easier with a 10% rebate off base list prices. That's $725 off this 1982 Concorde and $1,000 off this Eagle. You can apply the cash to your down payment or get a check. A 10% rebate.
That's a rebate, all right. Yeah, they change things like that all the time. You know, and you notice that we're shooting outside, and you're squinting like this. It reminds me of shooting Gunsmoke. And those Westerns, you shot so much outside, and they didn't bring lights, they used reflectors, these huge reflectors. And they'd shoot a scene, and the sun would be, sunny California, the sun would be shining, and those reflectors, I mean, it was absolutely painful. You're trying to do a scene looking like this. I mean, the light was so strong from the reflectors. All those guys had that. I mean, the guys that did the Westerns, their eyes are crinkly up. It's not because they're, you know, they're naturally that way. Like the lights were so strong from those reflectors that it made you do that. You almost went blind.
People don't think of all the stuff actors have to go through to get the shot just right.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, because frequently it's airplanes going overhead. You know, they cut, you know, they do the same thing again.
You also did corporate video. They send to the dealerships. There's some clips of you talking about how to sell cars or what's new for 1983. Do you remember doing those kind of videos?
Well, that was probably part of the in-house video that I did for them. You know, I don't remember specifically that, but the in-house video, you know, I really got to see the assembly line up close and personal. And that was really interesting to me, you know. The whole concept of automobiles being constructed bit by bit by bit on the move was really fascinating. You know, I'd read about it, but I didn't really know what it was like. I had an uncle who was a foreman on the line at General Motors for a number of years, but I didn't know anything about it at all. I mean, so it was fascinating to me.
How exactly did the campaign come to an end? You know, was it just that they said we're going to do something different now, or we have different?
No, they sold the company. That's and there was some question. They wanted me to go over and talk to the people in France at Renault, and I wasn't interested in doing that. And so, you know, that ended it. But it was the sale of the company that ended it.
So I didn't know that. So they wanted to keep you on as the Renault.
Well, they didn't know what they wanted to do, but they liked me so much that they wanted me to go over and meet with the Renault people in hopes that the Renault people would like me. But I backed away from that one. I wanted to get out of the commercial business. You know, I'd done it. I'd enjoyed doing it for American Motors because it's an American company. And I don't know. And the French are weird, can be weird, you know. Weird is the wrong word. They're different. And so I mean, I wasn't interested in battling that. I wasn't interested in selling myself to them. If they'd come to me, you know, I might have considered it, but even then I would have had doubts. But I didn't want to go over and sell myself to them. I'd reached a point also in California. I'd been out there for many years, and I missed working in the theater. And so I moved back to New York to work in the theater. And so the last, say, 10 years of my career, I worked mainly in the theater. I did plays at the Alliance Theater in Atlanta, great regional theater. Many of the Broadway plays have come from there. I did 2 plays at the Yale Repertory Theater. I did a lot of plays in New York. You know, I had to go to work to make money quickly, so I worked in television so quickly because of a growing family. I eventually had 3 kids. I very quickly had 3 kids. And so I moved back to New York was to work in the theater, which I did. And then after that, I began teaching. Uta Hagen, who ran the HB Studios, asked me to teach, and I did. And I would teach 2 classes, 2 3-hour classes a week. And the other free time I used to travel. I went to Spain 5 times. The entire country I've gone over. Toured France.
Wow.
I've been all over everywhere.
This is an odd question, but does it seem strange after all these years that this was the thing that somebody tracked you down to talk about? You know?
Well, yes, it does. Although I've had people call me on about different things over the years. They all seem strange to me, but no, this is not so strange because the response to this was very strong for me in the business. And as I said, I was a spokesman for Quaker State Oil for 3 years. They offered me a 3-year contract through Gray Advertising again.
Quaker State engines don't know when to quit.
Quaker State engines run strong and run long because Quaker State exceeds every single car maker's U.S. requirements for maximum engine protection. The big Q stands for quality.
Because they felt I was a very strong automotive guy. But as I said, I'm astonished at something. I don't remember these at all.
It's so wonderful to hear your viewpoint, because you can tell in your heart when you're doing those commercials how much you believe in the product. And being in the American Motors hobby, AMC was kind of the redheaded stepchild of the American automotive manufacturers, unfortunately. Even though they put so much quality in their cars, over the years, just get a lot of crap from other people. Well, why would you like an AMC or whatever?
Yeah.
And you got these advertisements that we have to look back to. And when you would compare a Concorde or a Spirit to the fuel mileage of a Chevrolet Citation, you know, and the way you deliver it is just like, you have to be nuts to not at least, you know, take a look.
Well, it's like we talked about who you're talking to when you what you really do, not that you think you're talking to the camera, but you're talking to the people beyond the camera.
Yes,
okay,
exactly.
and if you believe in something, and you know, you wouldn't do it if you didn't believe in it. Hopefully,
Right.
you know, I would have loved to have seen what Burt Lancaster would have done with it. We'll never know, will we? But that's the key. If you don't believe it,
Right.
you know, you're not gonna be able to persuade other people too. So
And I want you to know the stuff that you believed in was true, because in my family growing up, we had all different brands of cars. And the first car that got me into old cars was my grandmother had a 69 Chevrolet Nova. And the headliner was sagging out of it, the dashboard was split, the seats had been reupholstered if the car had rotted out, you know. And I have Concords now to this day that were kept up the same way my grandmother had kept up that Nova.
you said you have Concords?
Oh yeah,
How many cars do you
I
have?
have 4 Concords.
Do you really? You're
Yes,
kidding me. No wonder you feel so strongly about it. This makes sense.
Well, so I really ended up choosing to have Concords primarily because of your ad campaign.
Oh, that's nice. You know, it's interesting. As we're talking, I'm remembering something. Nash was the precursor to these, was it not?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I left school to go out to California to try to break into the business foolishly. Well, not foolishly, because I learned something. But I hitchhiked back home from California all the way back to Massachusetts.
Yeah.
And somewhere in Missouri, some guy picked me up with a Nash, one of those small old Nashes, you know.
Yeah.
This guy drove, he was a salesman, he drove maybe 30 miles an hour.
Wow.
I rode in that Nash from there finally, out there near the George Washington Bridge, I could stand it no longer. And I started pushing him to drive faster. And he got really mad at me. He stopped the car, get the F out of this car.
Oh, jeez.
My God.
You
He
should've
drove
said,
off.
"You know, you're
Then he
talking-
felt bad. He felt bad. He backed his car, I'll get back in. He got me back, and they drove me all the way to my home in Massachusetts.
You should have said, you know, you're talking to the future.
That's right.
future
Who knew?
spokesman for these
Who knew?
cars.
Looking back, what are some of the other movies or TV shows that you were really proud to be a part of? You know, something that was fun to make, or something that you're really proud to have on your resume.
Well, one of the ones is the Gunsmoke. I played the husband of an Indian girl who and our baby had cholera, I think, and was dying. And I had defended her against white guys, a group of white guys trying to rape her, and I killed one of the guys. And so I was being hunted, and we had a cabin way out in the country. And the first shot was a huge wide shot. I'm high up on a hill, and I'm on my horse, and I come down this hill slowly down, up to the cabin, dismount, and go in. That was the opening shot of the show. I'd never done a Western before, and I didn't realize that these horses are trained. They go on action. I thought I had to kick it to go on action. So the guy goes, action. I kicked the horse. It raced down the hill. I mean, I'm going like this. Cut. Okay. You don't have to do anything when they say action. They know what to do. You know, when I kicked it, the horse thought it had to run. Okay, and it ran down that, I mean, I'm talking about a steep mountain. So that was a wonderful beginning, but that was a nice show, and that was fun to do. You know, other shows that I've done, as I said, the Time Travelers, the movie that I did, Going Back in Time. Irwin Allen did that, and he told me if we got over a 30 share, we were on the air as a series. We got a 39 share. I mean, an extraordinary. Remember, there were only 3 television networks at the time. We got a 39 share on a Friday night. It didn't go on the air. And I went, my God, and I felt so bad. I was living in Malibu at the time. I had a place right on the ocean there. And I went across the street and, out of frustration, ran up a mountain. I was to get, rather than drink myself to death, I ran up a mountain. I couldn't walk for 3 days afterwards. I mean, I was so sore. But that was a terrific show, and I really enjoyed doing that show too. And it did go on the air. I found out years later that the head of the head of programming at ABC hated Irwin Allen, and he was new in the job, and it was never going to happen because of the feeling between the two of them. But that was a fun show. I also did him play for a PBS, a Clifford Odets play called Paradise Lost. Eli Wallach and Joe Van Fleet played my parents, and Bernadette Peters played my girlfriend. She was terrific.
You look swell in that new coat. Oh, who loves men?
Libby?
And Time magazine called that the finest representation of Odets ever filmed. So that was a terrific show to do. I guest starred on The Defenders. Remember, you guys are too young to remember that. The Defenders were a wonderful lawyer show in the middle 60s. A terrific show. I did 3 of those. Just a lot of shows over the years that I enjoyed doing.
What about, the one everybody remembers that I talked to is a police surgeon, which I guess started as Dr. Simon Locke and then became police.
It did. Well, Jack Albertson did it with me. You remember Jack Albertson, Chico and the Man, and Jack, very, very well-known character actor. He did it with me the first year, and he just won an Academy Award as Best Supporting Actor. And so Jack expected this series to be about him. What they were selling was this young guy. And so I had all the action in the show, and Jack was stuck back at this place, and he wasn't too happy about that. And so he left at the end of that year. And they decided just to star me alone in something. And so they created that Police Surgeon, which was a terrific show. We had wonderful guests on that show. We had Martin Sheen came up and did it. Bill Shatner did one. Stephanie Powers came. I mean, we had terrific people.
Is there anything else, Sam, that you could think of that you'd want to add about your time as an actor, or like I said, with working with American Boaters, or any of the other things from your career that stick out as fond memories?
One memory, when I was in college, I did Hamlet, and fairly successfully. And the director had taught a man who had just directed a big film with Lee Marvin, and he'd won an Academy Award for it. And he set up a meeting with this director at the Macy family's estate on Long Island Sound. We went there on a Saturday afternoon, and they ushered the two of us back into this book-lined study. I mean, I thought this was going to be wonderful. This guy spent an hour telling me, this is the worst business in the world. If you can do anything else, do it. It's just filled with the worst people. Holy cow. Okay, I walk out of that meeting, I go, what the? But that didn't dissuade me at all. So if you ever talk to anybody who thinks they want to go, and by the way, the odds in this business are horribly against you. I'll give you a figure if you want. But it didn't dissuade me at all. I mean, I wanted to do it. I continued to do it. Years later, I'm at a cocktail party in Beverly Hills, and who do I run into but this guy? And he was just as depressed. 30 years, I realized this guy's clinically depressed. I mean, if I'd listened to him the first time, I would have been anything but an actor. But he was like that 30 years later or 20 years later. I mean, amazing. If you ever, any of your children, friends, et cetera, want to go into this business, let me give you a few statistics. Michael Shurtleff was a great casting director. And he wrote a book called Audition. And he, in his book, said he had a Rolodex of 50,000 actors. He said, of that number, 375 make a living in the business. Of that number, 58 make a living as a straight actor. The rest make a living in commercials. Now look at the odds there. I mean, those are extraordinary odds for anybody that wants to go into this business. So getting work is the hardest part of the business, not doing the work, but getting it. But it also can be a wonderful business. I went to England, part of my traveling, and I'm walking down the street, and Police Surgeon was shown in England. I know my brother lived there for a while, and he would see it all the time. I'm walking down the street in London, and cabbies are going, hey, Doc, hey, Doc. I mean, it was wonderful. I went to a famous old restaurant there, and the owner of the restaurant came up and gave me a private tour of secret passage upstairs. The king used to meet his mistress there. So there are wonderful benefits for being visible, but it can be a tough business too. You know, it's interesting. Years later, I did a Broadway play directed by Alan Arkin, and we went out of town first. Most Broadway plays go out of town for at least one tryout city and maybe two, so that they can fix any problems they may have had. And we came back into New York, and Alan said, Sam, do you want to come to the theater early one day? I'm going to show you something. So I came to the theater, and he took me out on stage, and he said, I'm going to tell you, this is a little something that I do before every show. He said, I say a little prayer. I said, Dear God, if there's anybody in the audience whose pain I can relieve through humor, or who I can help them to understand the human condition better, please allow me to do that. And I send that to the last person in the last row of the balcony. I said, that makes a lot of sense. So I started doing it. Pretty soon people would come up to me and say, you're not doing anything different than you did in Boston, but it's better. And that's what I was doing, that. I'm not sure how that ties into the question you asked me, but I've always wanted to talk about that because I wish he'd said that to me when I was a young guy in New York, because it was one of the problems with being an actor and right now having the camera on me is people start focusing on themselves. You know, how do I look? How do I sound? Will they like me? Will they not like me? And what Alan talked about doing was not focusing on yourself, but rather focusing on what you could give. And I'm telling this story because a little of that had to do with the American Motors commercial. I liked the cars, I liked the company, and I just wanted to promote that. I mean, it's something I had a strong feeling about, you know, that I wanted to help them sell these cars, and so that was the motivation for it. They didn't direct me at all. We just, they directed the movement along the assembly line, but they didn't direct you know, what I was doing. It was I wanted to send out a message and it seemed to be effective.
Despite working in television, I have to say I haven't met that many famous people in my life, aside from John Davis on Motor Week, and then when I was in college, I met the two guys from the band Air Supply. I haven't really met that many celebrity actors or anything like that. But I will say, I wish they were all as nice as Sam Groom. Not only did he invite us in, his wife brought us croissants and coffee, and he didn't mind as we rearranged the furniture to film. And I was a little embarrassed. I did ask for his autograph, so I have his signature on my AMC brochure. But then, as I felt kind of guilty doing that, my friend Ben brought out a huge bag full of glove box doors that he had torn off of all of his AMCs to have Sam sign so he could go put them back on the cars once he got home. So I didn't feel so guilty asking him to sign my brochure after that. But Sam was a great sport. You know, he asked us about our project. He asked us about our cars. He was a really fun guy. And I have to say, I wish that, you know, everyone in Hollywood was as nice as him. I think the world would be a better place. And as a fun aside, I actually did look up the episode of Murder, She Wrote that Sam is in, where ironically he plays a doctor. And spoiler alert, he's the murderer. So he didn't tell me that. But what's really ironic is that that episode features another actor, Kevin McCarthy, who you might recognize as the actor in AMC's 1971 commercials.
On every Ambassador model, we're making air conditioning and automatic transmission standard. And nobody else does that. Why is American Motors doing all this? If you had to compete with the three biggest car companies in America, what would you do?
So here's this episode of Murder, She Wrote that includes two different spokesmen for American Motors. So you have to be a real AMC nerd to pick up something like that. Anyways, I will say we were very lucky to interview Sam. I had a very fun time talking to him. And I'm so glad that we got to share this extended interview with you, the audience. And it again reinforces how lucky I am to have made this project. So, and again, of course, thank you to all of you, all of our viewers out there who supported this project, who view this project, who share this project and share it with your friends. It means a lot to me. Be sure and stay tuned because we'll have more automotive content coming. And in the meantime, thank you very much for watching.
The Last Independent Automaker podcast was sponsored in part by Visit Detroit, the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation, Motor City's National Heritage Area, and by the over 375 individuals and organizations who donated to this project. Thank you.